Hi, everybody. Hi, Judith. Good evening. Tonight, I'm pleased to present this year's award to someone who has demonstrated extraordinary vision, innovation, and leadership throughout her career. Most recently, our honoree used that vision, innovation, and leadership to lead the state through the most urgent public health crisis the world has experienced in over a century. When the COVID pandemic hit New Jersey, Health Commissioner Judy Persichilli used her decades of experience in nursing, hospital administration, and public health to save lives and support those on the front lines. I'm sure when she accepted the position of New Jersey Health Commissioner in 2019, Judy had no idea what lay ahead. But simply put, she was the right person in the right position at the right time. Judith had the fortitude, knowledge, and more importantly, the vision to protect the citizens of New Jersey. Her years of experience from ICU nurse to CEO of one of the largest health systems in the country allowed her the leadership skills to quickly realize that success in battling the pandemic was much larger than just her amazing team. She and the department needed data on the nature of the virus, data on test results, data on hotspots and trends. After all, this was a novel disease where everything was a first. And Judy and her department needed the biopharmaceutical industry to bring vaccines and therapeutics to fruition quickly. Judy's years as a servant leader at the University Hospital in Newark, at Catholic Health East, and St. Francis Medical Center in Trenton allowed her to effectively integrate her clinical knowledge with her business acumen to create and implement visionary action plans. Judy earned her BS in nursing as a summa cum laude graduate from the Rutgers College of Nursing and has been quoted saying that, quote, "Rutgers taught me to be curious, to always look differently at things, to identify problems and seek solutions, to research and to be innovative." This thinking has served her well. It was this innovative mind, this forward-thinking approach that allowed Judy and her team to implement never-before-used systems in our hospitals to ensure patients received the care they needed while protecting our doctors, nurses, and hospital staff who were placing their own lives in jeopardy to save the lives of their fellow neighbors. And it was Judy's innovative mind that ensured that procedures were in place to get as many New Jerseyans vaccinated as possible as soon as the first COVID-19 vaccine was made available. An unprecedented innovation in itself. It was that novel thinking that has gotten New Jersey to where it is today, with 90% of our citizens vaccinated. A driven and passionate person, our honoree's core mission is, quote, "to help people in New Jersey live long, healthy lives." And she has done just that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the BioNJ 2022 Dr. Sal J. Barra honoree, New Jersey Health Commissioner Judith Persichilli.
By this recognition, particularly the honor in the name of Dr. Bearer, so thank you so much. So next week marks Juneteenth, the day in 1865 when Gordon Granger, a Union general, informed enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas, that they were free. that came 3 long years after the Emancipation Proclamation. 3 long years. Justice delayed is justice denied. The value of justice, exhibiting morally right and fair behavior. For me, as we talk about vision, leadership and innovation, the concept of mission-driven leadership, rooted in the foundation of strong values, is the engine that inspires all of us. It's what I experienced repeatedly through this pandemic. My vision when joining the Department of Health was to end my career serving a governor whose values I respected in a state that I loved and lived in and do live in my whole life. My first 5 months of the department were a little hectic. We had a lead crisis in Newark. I'm sure you all remember that. Have any of you forgotten the vaping problem we had, causing irreparable lung damage to many of our young adults? I then had a flood in one of our offices in Trenton, requiring us to relocate 300 employees. And if that wasn't enough, on a Saturday night, a fire in one of our substance abuse residential centers, requiring us to move moms and their children in the middle of the night to one of our hospitals. So the people at the department said to me, "I don't know, Commissioner, we've never had so many crises at one time." In a few short months, we would learn a new definition of crisis. On March 4th, 2020, we had our first confirmed case. What we didn't know back then was astounding. But what I did know, based on a call that I received, was that we were in trouble. I received a call from one of our CMOs at one of our hospitals. He said, "Commissioner, I have a case I want you to be aware of. Middle-aged man in intensive care, respiratory insufficiency, and on a ventilator. I just found out that his brother is in a similar condition at a Philadelphia hospital, and we are now seeing members of the family in our emergency room." Well, the story unfolded. The family had a gathering of 25 members, and within weeks, 15 of the 25 had come down ill, and subsequently, 5 expired. I worked through the AIDS epidemic, the anthrax scare, the Ebola threat, the measles outbreak, but nothing like this. What my experience told me was something bad was afoot. We needed to over-prepare. We told our hospitals, stop all elective admissions, double your ICU bed capacity, be prepared to set up tents to isolate outside your hospital. Those calls were tough. I was asking the CEOs to do something unfathomable, basically set up a war zone. But they listened. They listened out of respect. They all did their part. Active listening and respect, even in a time of doubt, certainly is part of leadership. We requested the Army Corps of Engineers to come in, and in 2 weeks, they set up 3 field medical stations. We asked for volunteers to staff the medical stations, and we treated 600 patients in the field. A public health emergency was declared, the first time in the state's history. The governor put in a curfew and closed commercial facilities. We commandeered closed hotels and set up isolation and quarantine centers, rooms for individuals who could not safely isolate at home, healthcare workers who were afraid to go home. They wanted to protect their family, and for people experiencing homelessness who had no home to go to. It's difficult to recall those dark days a little over 2 years ago, when in one weekend our hospitals were challenged with the worst influx of patients in their history. We got hit hard. The trajectory of the increase in cases was something never before experienced in our lifetime. Within days, our hospitals reached a peak of over 8,300 patients, with over 2,300 in critical care. We had no PPE. There was no protective equipment, The state stockpile was scarce, and the national strategic stockpile was actually empty. We had no N95s. We were running out of mechanical ventilators. The colonel and I were moving ventilators in the middle of the night. So what was this novel virus never before seen in humans? How was it transmitted? And how can we stop it? We were all leading through ambiguity, the most difficult challenge any leader can have. In ambiguity, the role of leaders with vision are what we need. It sets the journey. Our vision to protect as many New Jerseyans as possible seemed daunting at times. We learned early on that our success would be dependent on the engagement of so many of you. When we had no tests, the late Andrew Brooks innovatively led his team to the discovery of the saliva test. And through the support of Rutgers and Dr. Strom, thousands of tests were committed to New Jersey. I had the pleasure of meeting his mom and his wife today, and I told them I was on the phone with Andy almost every day. I would say, Andy, we need more tests. He would say, Judy, we need more money. We ended up in the right place. As we were struggling with supply chain and moving ventilators in the middle of the night, Princeton University was developing a novel intensive therapy mechanical ventilator designed for mass-scale distribution. As time went on and the virus was not abating, the development of the vaccine seemed out of reach, and yet, in less than 1 year, with groundbreaking innovations, J&J, Pfizer, Novartis, Sanofi, all worked arduously to bring life-saving vaccines to the worldwide market. Innovations, saving lives, and leading the way through the worst pandemic we had experienced to make sure there was a better life for so many others. Constant, unrelenting innovation, inspiring Eli Lilly, Gilead, GlaxoSmithKline, Merck, and Pfizer to continue their vision to protect as many lives as possible through the development of effective therapeutics. None of this would have been possible without the courage of individuals willing to participate in clinical trials necessary to prove effectiveness and safety. Thank you, Minister Blackshear and Gene Walters. Once the vaccines were available, we undertook the largest vaccination program in our history, with our vision to provide equitable access to every New Jerseyan. We set the goal that everyone in New Jersey would be within a 15-minute walk or a 30-minute drive to a vaccine site. And today, as I stand here, we have administered over 18 million doses of vaccine in New Jersey. Yes, with all of your help. We needed so many individuals to stand up and support the mission. Hospitals, local health departments, pharmacies, churches, schools, universities, FQHCs, employers, the Chamber of Commerce, all joined together with the Department of Health to once again show New Jersey strong, because after all, we were all in this together. Mission, courage, vision, innovation, combined with the foundation of values of justice and equity, brings us to the overall concept of leadership. Leadership is a complicated concept. It's really only defined by one common characteristic: followership. The one thing all leaders have in common is that in order to be a leader, you have to have at least one follower. There is not one trait that all leaders have in common. In other words, leaders can actually decide how they want to show up. As a leader, I had to decide every day how I was going to show up in the midst of this crisis. Confident, yet inquisitive and curious. At times stern, but open to jest, and calm even when on edge. Because you see, leadership is difficult for all of you who are in leadership positions. You know that at times, leadership is suffering. But most importantly, and with overwhelming thanks to the team that I have at the Department of Health, I have the privilege to work as a leader. We have made it to this point. But I always ask myself at the end of every day when I drive home, no matter the time, whether it's 7 or 8, or at times in the beginning, midnight, how did I represent my values today? So in closing, it is with heartfelt thanks for this recognition and for all the groundbreaking innovations you have all participated in. I know our work is not done. We have promises to keep and miles to go. But we all know that without vision, the people perish. Without innovation, there is no progress. And without leadership, there is no success. The legacy from all of us, from all of you who have participated in this great pandemic of 2020, 2021, maybe 2022, this great pandemic, is that through your work, you are not just living through history, you are making history. So please know, and most importantly, you all brought hope for a future better than the present we live in. And for that, please know that I, for one, will be forever grateful to all of you. I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite quotes by Lao Tzu, with a few of my own edits, and you'll know what edit I made. A leader is best when people barely know she exists. And when her work is done, her aim fulfilled, they will say, "We did it ourselves." Thanks so much for this recognition, and please know we will make it through this pandemic, and you've done it yourselves. Thank you.